Let me tell you something right off the bat. Some days you step into history, and other days, history steps on you. My first morning as commander was supposed to be all about new beginnings, but the way those three officers circle me outside the precinct, you'd think I was the one on trial, not them. I hadn't even crossed the threshold, and already I was being questioned, doubted, sized up like I was trespassing on my own future. I remember the cold morning air, how it bit at my neck, and the way I kept my movements quiet and deliberate, hoping maybe dignity could shield me from humiliation. You ever get that sense like every eye on you is waiting for a crack? Yeah, that happened. I stood in the staff lot, holding a sealed envelope, watching the sky shift from deep blue to soft gray. I wanted to see how this place woke up before I took my seat at the table. Was I nervous? Maybe. But if I was, I hid it behind slacks, a plain blouse, and a stillness I learned from my brother years ago. Suddenly, a voice cut through the quiet sharp, suspicious, used to being obeyed. You need to move away from that door. He had that look, the one thick neck, and already drifting toward his holster. Authority baked into every syllable. I told him I was waiting on official business, kept it calm, but he looked me up and down and saw only what he wanted to see. Alana, he called me, trying to make it sound like a threat. This ain't your entrance. Unless you work here, you better walk. I barely had time to respond before a second officer, Jenna, younger, faster with the insult, showed up. "Oh, we got another one," she said, voice dripping with sarcasm. That's when I pulled my badge, not with drama, just letting them see. Jenna smirked, called it a laminated card, and Dalton didn't even look. It's funny how quickly things escalate when folks feel their power slipping. They threatened me with trespassing, with arrest, and still, I stood there, silent as a mountain. Tyler, the third officer, stood off to the side, coffee cup in hand, eyes darting between us like he'd stumbled into the wrong play. You could tell he wasn't comfortable, but you know how at a sometimes it's easier to stay quiet than risk standing out. Dalton squared up. "You don't work here." I just said, "I'll go inside now. You'll understand soon enough," and walked right past them, steady and unhurried, like I'd been practicing for this moment my whole life. The real twist? Tyler didn't stop and help me either. And in that moment, the silence between us was louder than any insult. When I stepped into the station, that echo of humiliation still hung on my shoulders, but I didn't let it weigh me down. By 8 a.m., I was in uniform, brass on my collar, walking into the conference room where 25 officers turned to see who'd walk through the door. The looks I got, some curious, some cold, most calculating, didn't surprise me. I didn't come to adjust furniture. I came to change culture. I introduced myself as Commander Reed, then clicked on the projector, showing a black and white photo of my brother, Officer James Reed. "This is my brother," I said. "He never missed a day, never drew his weapon when he didn't have to. Then he made the mistake of standing up for a rookie who was being harassed. He told the truth, filed a report, and they reassigned him, then pushed him out." The silence in that room was thick, suffocating. I let it linger, then asked, if someone watched your last 10 minutes outside this building with no sound, what would they believe about the values of this department? No one answered because someone was watching, and they all knew it. I made it clear I wasn't here to humiliate anyone, but if you find yourself exposed by your own actions, don't expect me to protect you. The room was tense, but beneath all that bravado, I could see a flicker of doubt, especially in Tyler. That was the first crack in the wall. "You can step up, or you can wait for the next lawsuit," I said, voice steady. "But those who protect misconduct won't find cover from me." Later, alone in my office, I watched the security footage, Dalton's finger jabbing toward my face, his jaw tight, eyes hard. I saved the clip, labeled it, and sat with the weight of it for a minute. Not as a commander, but as a black woman who'd just been forced to prove, again, that I belonged. Then a knock. Tyler Mason, finally ready to talk. He sat down, voice trembling, and confessed, "I should have stopped them." I froze. I told him the truth, hadn't yelled, hadn't cursed, but he hadn't stopped them, and that was his failure. "Is this going on a record?" he asked. "Depends on who you choose to be tomorrow," I said. His guilt tasted bitter, but maybe that's the price of learning. Angela Lopez came in next, holding a misconduct file. "You want to file a report?" she asked. I shook my head. "Not yet. People show who they are after the fire passes." Angela called it giving them rope. I called it giving them a choice. Because sometimes the biggest change comes from letting people choose the kind of person they want to be with the world watching. Out in the station, the whispers were spreading. Dalton, furious, slammed his locker, called me a diversity hire, complained to anyone who'd listen that he was being forced to salute someone who hadn't earned it. Jenna, the one with the quick tongue, sat stiff and pale, her phone blowing up with messages and social media comments after someone posted a clip of her mocking me. The city council called for reassurance, but all they cared about was avoiding protests, not correcting the problem. But change has a way of leaking out, even when you try to seal every crack. Tyler listened to Dalton's rants, realized silence wasn't neutrality, it was complicity. That night, he sent a report to the Inspector General's office, attaching audio recordings and admitting his own failure to speak up. It was just a whisper, but sometimes that's all it takes to start an avalanche. In quiet moments, I'd look at the old photo of me and my brother, Army First Shield, punished for standing up when it mattered. Angela had seen it all too, admitted she'd been scared back then, but I told her the truth. It wasn't about fear, it was about refusing to let dignity be stamped out, no matter the cost. The next morning, the precinct felt different. Not loud, not obvious, but something had shifted. Tyler stood a little taller, and even Dalton's swagger looked forced. The Inspector General's office came in. They played the audio. Dalton's voice, full of contempt, proof that this was never just about me, but about a culture gone wrong. Lisa Breener from the state office read out his record: excessive force, insubordination, ignored complaints. When asked for his badge, Dalton tried to shout it down, but truth doesn't care about volume. He slammed his badge on the table and left, the sound lingering long after the door shut. Jenna showed up later, handed me in Latino words, just the first step. I told her, words don't heal. Actions do. That afternoon, the precinct gathered. I recognized Tyler for courage, not the kind that comes easy, but the kind that costs something. The applause was honest, quiet, a sign that maybe, just maybe, change was possible. Even Miguel Banks, the quiet sergeant, stepped forward. "If you're building something new, I want to help," he said. I shook his hand. "Then we start here." Sunlight hit the floor, no fanfare, just clarity. On a talk show called Voices of Reform, I was asked why I hadn't shouted back that day. I said all I needed to say. I replied the moment I walked in. Later, a letter came from a girl named Janelle. "You were the quietest person, and you still won. One day I'll be like you." My reply was simple: be better. But never forget how I stood still. Sometimes change doesn't shout. It just shows up and stays. Weeks passed. Training changed. Some fought it, some welcomed it. Tyler became a bridge. Angela kept her promise. I kept walking those halls, not to control, but to be clear about who we could be. One afternoon, I paused by the new plaque at the entrance. "Command begins with character." No smile, no victory lap, just a silent promise to those who'd come before. My brother's ghost on my shoulder, a breeze in the sun. I walked on, letting the silence linger, a silence that spoke of strength, not surrender. And, sometimes the bravest stand is the one you take in silence, not because you're afraid, but because you're done shouting for permission to belong. So let me ask you, when is the last time you stood still and let your character speak for itself? I want to hear what you think, because at the end of the day, this isn't just my story. It's a question for all of us. What side of the line do we want to stand on? And who do we become when nobody's watching? Share your thoughts below. Let's talk about what real justice looks like right here, right now.